Hey folks, PikPikPanda here with my good friend BuzzBomber for a new episode of Co-op Reviews. The goal of our reviews is to go over aspects of a game we've played so we can share our thoughts and opinions that determine if it's something you should pick up for you and your friends, if it's something you should avoid, or perhaps something you should pick up solo. In today's episode, we're talking about 20XX.
20XX, or 20XDX as we recently learned some people call it, is an indie-developed title that celebrates a gaming community love for the Mega Man series that also playfully skirts the line of infringement on a variety of things. The game's main draw is its roguelike design, which means that the levels you play through have a bit of randomness to them in how they are constructed. The gameplay otherwise is your classic left-to-right platformer where you take control of your choice of Nina or Ace, or in our case both, and progress by jumping, shooting, and slashing through obstacles and enemies on your path to escape the oppression of scientific testing.
20XX houses a small variety of modes to play, though none of them are specifically focused on co-op. Instead, you get a myriad of modes such as Boss Rush, daily and weekly challenges, as well as specific rule sets that happen to also be playable multiplayer. There does not seem to be any variation in these modes whether you're playing alone or with a partner.
This game has both online and local co-op options. We understand that a big chunk of development specifically went into the online multiplayer for 20XX, and we're certainly happy it all worked out. When playing online, each player sees their own dedicated screen, which makes the high movement action easy to handle. This does, however, cause any player who may have fallen behind to quickly lose track of where their partner has gone, since the game offers no form of other player indication like you would normally see on a minimap or something of the like. There is also issues with latency at times, where it may seem that your co-op partner is moving on a platform out of sync with what you're seeing, but that is largely ignorable.
If you decide to take 20XX to the couch, then you certainly have an easier time keeping track of your friend, but you may find that you lose track of yourself. The local co-op shares a screen which, in the style of something like Super Smash Bros., zooms in and out of the game area in relation to how close both players are together. This can be a source of problems, however, as the game stops zooming out after a certain point and can cause both players to blindly run outside the boundaries of the screen. And if the players are separated enough, the game's chunk section gameplay areas stop to pop out of existence as the game's coding dictates it no longer needs to be rendered. We do want to point out that while this is a bit of a buggy and humorous problem, it's unlikely that two people playing together locally would find themselves separated to such a degree for this to truly become noticeable.
While losing your play partner can be frustrating and the latency issues are noticeable, we find that both rarely impacted our gameplay, whereas the shrinking of the screen did affect our timing for jumps and attacks when we weren't expecting it. Overall, we'd say that if you were given two options, we would suggest playing it online. The freedom of having your own screen that stays on the same zoom level throughout the game, with the exception of boss battles, vastly outweighs the alternative.
20XX is essentially Mega Man X in spirit, and its gameplay is very reminiscent of this. While the second player does not change how the game is played as a whole, it does give you a two-player Mega Man X if that's the sort of thing you've always wanted.
If we were to give this game a hard comparison, it would be to Sonic 2, specifically the option for the second player to control Tails during the main game. While playing 20XX's co-op mode isn't nearly the little sibling mode that Tails offers in Sonic 2, it is similar in regards to the necessity of that second player. Like Sonic 2, regardless of your co-op partner's involvement or skill, you are fully capable of playing through and beating 20XX by yourself. In fact, more often than not, you can make like Sonic and leave the second player in the dust, assuming you are not limited by the local co-op screen growth.
Both players must navigate the level, with very few instances of the players benefiting from each other or being able to assist each other. The game doesn't really offer any challenges that the players can work together to overcome, with the exceptions of boss battles. Like modern Mario titles, if someone enters another area like a store, the other player is warped into that area with them after a short time. The entire experience can feel as if the second player is merely being dragged through the game if one player is more skilled or familiar. Most rewards upgrade both players, and when a purchase is made, the players are given 2 copies of it. In fact, the inclusion of a co-op player seems to make many of the challenges far easier, while making some more frustrating as things are not changed to account for a second player in the space.
Assuming both players are alive by the time you reach the boss door, the only true necessity of the second player is that both players need to touch the door to progress to the battle. After that, the second player has that Tails choice of either putting the controller down or joining in the fight to kill the boss faster, with the exception that 20xx's second player doesn't have that twin-tailed fox immortality. With the base idea of 20xx being a roguelike platformer, the game itself has a high replay value. You and your friends can play it as often or as little as you like, really. It all depends on how long it can entertain you. With that being said, the replay value comes from the desire to see how someone fresh handles and plays the game, as the game itself doesn't exactly have much of a story for someone to experience or get pulled into, though that was likely never the goal anyways.
Being a rogue-lite style game, a lot of the game is generated randomly as you play. The maps are all generated from pre-made chunks at random. The bosses are the same each time, but the order you are able to attack them in will change from run to run, as well as the items and upgrades that you will find throughout the game, though there are some permanent upgrades available to you as you progress through runs. This will make each playthrough unique, so if you want to play it for an hour just to say you got to the end, then go for it. If you or the duo of you and your friend want to grind out every unlockable and see every combination, and you find that fun, then go for that as well. Due to the nature of the game's design, the replay value is going to be completely subjective. The game will be as replayable and as fun as you want it to be.
As of this review, 20xx is available for $17 Canadian, and that's without any sort of sale or discount, so it's certainly worth the small dip in the wallet to obtain it if you don't already own it already. If that's still too rich for your blood, then we're sure you'll easily find it in an indie Humble Bundle or in the ever-popular Steam sales. We both purchased the game at its full price and certainly got what we wanted out of it. But sadly, that's where Panda and I stop agreeing. Since 20xx simply injects a second player into an otherwise single-player game, Panda feels this isn't worth a purchase solely for a multiplayer experience. However, on the same note, even though it doesn't offer anything special cooperatively, I feel that since the single-player experience is plentiful, and since a second player can experience every second of it alongside you, that makes it an excellent purchase in regards to buying something for multiplayer. Unfortunately, it's just something you'll have to decide for yourselves, but thankfully, it's an inexpensive enough game to try.
When you're building a platformer, the controls have to be tight and responsive. Thankfully, 20xx is as tight as you'd hope it'd be. It's very easy to judge a jump, or bounce out of obstacles, as well as get a perfectly level aimed shot. We found that equipping and using multiple boss weapons can be a bit disorienting, but that may vary from player to player and how much you play. The game expects you to use an Xbox controller plugged into your PC and does inform you of this preference up front. While it can be played with a keyboard, a passable option for local co-op if you only have one controller, the default controls are a bit odd and offer a subpar experience.
As for how it looks, often we like to agree that graphics are not important these days. You can knock it out of the park with very basic 8-bit art styles, like with Shovel Knight. The flash-style cell shading of 20xx allows for everything to pop and makes it very easy to see against the background. The design, when taking levels, bosses, and enemies into account, matches Mega Man X in the style and creativity. While normally we would love to hack into the meat and call the look of 20xx a bit too Newgrounds for our liking, we also must remind ourselves that it was kickstarted with a mere $20,000 and is the first commercial game for its creator. So as fellow first-timers trying to get our own project off the ground, we have a bit of a soft edge to our knife. I mean, never forget that we gave Mighty No. 9 a whopping $3.8 million, and that, kinda sucked.
Connecting your friends for co-op in 20xx is as easy as you'd expect from Steam. It's simple to find the lobby system via the hub base in the game, and the simple menus are easy to navigate and to find your friends. A few seconds is all it takes before you and your buddy are off to the races.
20xx provides plenty of challenge for new and experienced gamers. Its difficulty curve is a steady climb, whereas all the bosses have increasing difficulties based on what order you choose to play them. It's easy to see that someone who would classify themselves as a casual gamer could easily find themselves platforming like the best of them within a handful of attempts. Like games of old or any skill, practice makes perfect, and you'll only get better through repetition. The ability to unlock bigger and better upgrades for future runs will help you feel like you're actively making progress till you finally get that glorious end screen and feel like a victorious kid again. Here at Co-opt-In, we don't like to stamp things with out of 10s or arbitrary amounts of stars. Instead, we rate games based on our focus, so we'll tell you if we're going to co-opt in, co-opt out, or simply tell you to go it alone. This one was a little tricky for us. We had to discuss it a fair bit because while we do really like the game and have personally played it far beyond what our playthrough shows, we are still obligated to tell you how it is. With that said, we say for 20XX to go it alone.
The ability to play every aspect of 20XX with a friend is a big thumbs up from us. Given what we focus on this channel, we'd be very critical if it were any less. However, we are forced to once again compare it to something like Sonic 2. The co-op of 20XX is sort of tacked on and brings nothing new to the experience. It's fun, but not necessary. A lesser skilled co-op partner could very well go through this game on the heels of another player and not land one impactful shot or feel that they were helpful in any way. When we were discussing how we were going to rate this game, we brought up games like Dark Souls or The Division, where they too can be beaten single player and experienced without a second person, but in both of those games, the addition of the other player changes how you can approach various challenges, and you can work together to overcome them. They allow you to set up strategies or play in a certain way that your partner could cover the weaknesses of your build. In 20XX, upgrades give multiple copies, or simply apply to both players. There's nothing that the second player brings that truly makes the game any different, with the exception of bosses die faster, and at that point, you're kind of playing easy mode. If we were to sum up 20XX, we would say that it has great multiplayer, but not great co-op. All in all, we definitely suggest pick it up for yourself. We even suggest that if you and your friend have it, give it a try multiplayer, it's quite fun. But as for labeling it a definitive co-op experience, it falls just shy.
Well, that's it everyone. We hope you enjoyed our review of 20XX, or at least found it informative. We did have a pretty good time playing the game, so if you'd like to see how we came up with our opinions, we welcome you to take a peek at our playthrough we've done. Thanks so much for watching Co-opted In, guys. We appreciate any comments you leave us, as well as those subscriptions. They mean a lot to us. Don't forget to like or dislike this video, as it helps us improve. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you on the next Co-opted In.